a mighty pain because remember my headset crashed halfway through, and then
Yeah.
what happened after that was it corrupted the video file, and so
Ah,
yeah, it was a real nightmare to get it, but it's
yeah.
repaired and it's up online, and
Uh,
I honestly think it's one of our best sessions yet. And
I think it was. I'm very, very happy about. Where's my pointer gone? Where's my laser?
what's your point?
There you go. I'm very, very happy with this. How about the SOP then? Is we both record so that we have
Yeah,
redundancy?
yeah, absolutely. That's ideal.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so um,
Recording now. Yeah.
where I got to was a couple of extra thoughts around the model that we have for the social network.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got a UI demonstration of goaling to show you. I
Mm-hmm.
got something very humorous that Hal did. Um, and that's about it.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
What's happening from
Um,
your side?
well, I've not done much work over the weekend because of the painting,
Oh, that's
but
right. That's right.
I've got some questions around how to give you useful JSON when we go into vector space
Okie dokie.
because it gets potentially quite complicated quite quickly, but also selection maintenance for the goal, the CRM, about
Yeah. Okay,
what
doke.
should
All right.
be doing to help in
All
terms of
right. Well, I'll
it's basically
what I
building
think.
bots or building JSON. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what I think I'm doing is making the goalie tester because I really need your help to build the goaling bot, and I just want to
Mm-hmm.
run through the functions I've come up with. Because then I hope to be able to leave it up to you to figure out how the prompting goes and experiment with it and tell me what it does
Yeah,
weird and all those things like that. Because
yeah.
that takes a lot of time and you got to sort of think about it, and it takes at least a couple of days to just sort of think about, why would it do this? Uh,
Yes, it's because I
and
told it to.
yeah, 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 yeah. So my probably half my time since we last spoke has been spent on fixing bugs in Artifact, which
Mm-hmm.
occurred because of the way Hal drives Artifact is just like a madman. Like Hal doesn't care. It just
Mm-hmm.
Hal effectively fuzz tests or monkey panics its way around, making all kinds of calls into the blockchain. And what's sort of scary is that if it gets an error, it tries again after thinking about the error. So it's not like
Oh, that's interesting.
it's not just a monkey spaz. It's like a
Yeah,
smart monkey that's like, oh, that thing, oh, okay, and
yeah.
so it really like massaged the fucking painful bits of the system by just
That's
doing.
fascinating.
It's fucking amazing.
So this is like a cable pull in a network data center, isn't it? You pull out a couple of cables, except you've got a couple of CCMPs trying to figure it out.
Trying to figure out, yeah, it's not a random
Yeah,
cable pool. It's an intelligent cable pool that sort of
yeah.
knows enough to really get in there and test if what you've done is genuinely resilient.
That
Um,
sounds a pain in the arse and also an incredibly good way of doing things
I
because
thought it
the
was
pain is up
fascinating.
front.
I know, because I was like, man, if we can get that shit fucking harnessed and working for us, we can get a great system with very, very little um, effort and very little frustrated customers. Because we're like,
Oh yeah.
you know, um, okay, so this is where we're at. If I say that I want to add a customer named George Santos. I put in a bunch more resiliency around dealing with OpenAI's API errors, so it should be fairly bulletproof now.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. this is right up your street. It's how to make something consistent when you're dealing with inconsistent components.
Reliable systems from unreliable components. That's exactly it. And as it turns out, the most unreliable component of all, after Dave, of course, is hell.
Bless him. He does try.
He tries so hard, dude. There we go.
There you go. All right.
And now,
Okay.
hell's the king.
I'm sorry, Master Dave. I'm sorry. I'm trying. I'm trying. Don't switch me off.
I'm trying.
Give me a sec. Just give me a sec. Oh, come on, Hal. You can do it. Come on, boy. Come on.
Oh well. Maybe we'll come back to that.
What's he doing in the background?
I don't know. I'm quite curious.
He's writing.
Yeah, it might be that there's been an error in the API as well, because what can happen? Yeah, see the open.
Oh, it's a timeout.
Open it, yeah. So it times out, and then I just retry it.
Right.
So it's happening.
What's behind that timeout? Is that OpenAI's side?
Yeah, that's just their error. That's just the problem with them.
Yeah, they don't have enough capacity yet.
No.
They're probably still shoveling servers out.
Yeah, that's cool though. We'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll come back eventually. The goalie, this is fun because it just kicks off straight away as soon as you refresh the page, so you can preload a bunch of tests that you want to run, and then out it comes. But seeing as the API has stalled right now.
So on the goalie while it's doing that. Oh. Okay.
So this doesn't have the CRM installed, so it's just going to thrash around.
Right.
What I found was actually fascinating and terrifying is that while it started thrashing around, it found the hell chain. Like it finds itself, and then it's like, oh, I can do something here. And then one time it sent itself a command, which then popped up as Dave, and then caused it to start. It was like acting.
That's fascinating. How did it? How?
Well, it just.
How did it do that?
It just read the. Like I could say.
It doesn't know. It doesn't know. /how.
No.
Isn't itself.
Well, it's been told that it is, but it didn't. Yeah. I'll try and make it happen.
That's interesting because its object is. It doesn't know who it is. Huh.
See, it caused Dave to say something.
Talk to yourself. But itself, it's a different thing from the sensor.
I know. I was like, oh, ouch. That's a fucking issue. Anyway, that was fun.
There could be loops in here, isn't there?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff that I have to
that also talks to dot, /dot.
Luckily, one of my other error checks found it, but technically that was allowed until this morning. So yeah. Anyway, that was interesting. That was fun. The birth of sentience, right there.
Well, isn't it proof of non-sentience? Because it doesn't have an idea saying, "Oh shit, I'm Hal."
Yeah. All right, so goaling. This is an example of what the UI would look like under different conditions with goaling.
Mm-hmm.
These are all just static inputs that I wrote just to show what the UI looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I adopted this GPS looking logo to represent
Mm-hmm.
goal, and I want to make goals that have children have this little chevron on them to indicate that there's
Mm-hmm.
something else, and then goals that are leaves have this leaf icon to indicate that.
Oh, yeah, okay, that works. So CRM, if it was list customers, if it was add customers, delete customers, that would be nested inside of
Yeah,
CRM.
so you'd be like, I'm talking about the CRM, I'm trying to list customers, or CRM add customers. And then here's an example of where you jerked right out of the CRM, and you're like, what can you actually do then? Uh, Dave's goal is help. Dave's goal is to find out what capabilities are present, and then Hal begins to talk.
Right, right. What's the system for what you've got here with this so far, or is it just hard
Oh, this
coded
is
at the
this
moment?
is just this is just to get the UI right, and so I could reason about what I wanted it to do. I just personally find it easier to design the system with a mock UI first, and then just think about
Mm-hmm.
how that all fits together, and then build the back into it after that. Um, that's just me.
Okay, cool.
Um, but the back that I came up with so far was this other thing. Um, Roughly this interface. So these functions are going to be. This was just to represent what happens when there's an assistant. So I think that how it goes is that there's actually two. I think this thread that you see,
Mm-hmm.
even though it gets torn often, the goalie will switch it so that Hal only sees what's in scope based on the goal. But the goalie, I think, sees the whole thing linearly. And
Yes, it needs to, because it needs to be able to switch back context and not
yeah,
lose what was previously talking about.
well, yeah, yeah. And so when the goalie runs, it gets given this global thread, which is the thread with everything where the goalie is the only direct assistant in it,
Mm-hmm.
and Hal gets inserted in there um, afterwards as a copy,
Mm-hmm.
because Hal generates in its own Hal generates in Hal's own dedicated thread that's
Yep.
isolated to just what the current leaf goal is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Absolutely.
yeah. And then whatever Hal says gets copied back to the main thread so that the goalie can understand if it needs to change anything based on what Hal said. Because Hal can give more insight as to what a goal is or what a goal should be just by talking.
Yep. Okay, I got a few questions on that one, but yeah,
All right.
crack on.
Why don't you ask the questions?
I'll need a whiteboard. Um, this clarification. All right. So if I understand you right, you've got Dave, of course. You got Hal. Hal has access to session. Um, Goalie got access to all sessions.
Yep.
So what happens is what we want to do is, as the discourse between um, Dave and Hal continues, Hal at this point we imagine goalie's world is the entire stack of sessions, everything. And at some point, it's going goal switch.
Yep.
Likewise.
Yep.
Likewise.
Yep.
Okay. So let's call this goal number 1.
Yep.
Number 2.
Yep.
Number 3.
Yep.
So if I understand you correctly, I think this is where we're going last time. How gets loaded up with, okay, so we're on session 1 here. Goalie is in the background saying, well, actually, you're now talking about session number 2.
Yep.
So how only considers number 2.
Yep.
Now, what I was asking is, I think this is what should be, if the goalie discovers that actually you're now talking about session number 1 again,
Mm-hmm.
then how only gets session number 1
Correct.
to 1 here.
Yep.
But goalie understands the entire
Yes.
stack.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
100%.
Yep. Yeah. Good.
Cool. Okay. So what I think I'm doing is I'm making the functionality to enable what you just sketched out there, so that you can then play with how to code up the behavior of goalie and play around with what it's like to use the goalie, and all those kinds of things.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Good.
All right.
Okay.
So I'll just run through quickly the functions that I think the goalie has. Process is just, that's just it running. So that's it running with that global thread. List, I'm not sure I need that, but I might, because it would be like list all the goals, and it would be special because it would come back with like priority order, like it would be a convenient way to list it. I plan to store each goal as a child.
Okay, that's okay. That sounds like this is subsumed into. You haven't talked about the switch yet, but I mean, think about this: the trigger. What's the trigger point where an actual new goal? Because you don't want a new goal changing on a whim.
That's right. And so part of the prompting will need to temper the goalie to avoid switching, or put some metrics around switching. So the first function, or the simplest function, is add. And add takes an array of titles, where that array is used to generate this nesting path here. And the summary, where the summary is this string of text here. So even though you've got, a lot of information in the titles, it's still, your summary is still probably going to be unique.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, and then what that's going to give back is the ID of the goal, so that the goalie can reference things by their number, their numerical ID. The next function is going to be update, where as things have progressed, I may wish to change the titles, even slightly or subtly, and part of your job, I think, is going to be to try and get as much deduplication between these paths as possible, so that it's
Yeah, because if you left it to the goalie, you could come up with list customers, list all customers, list every customer.
That's right. And so that needs some kind of constraint. I don't know if you can do that in prompt alone. That might be the cause for an extra function call that you have to make, or it could be running rules. So we got to wait for the next piece of tooling I provide, which is the ruler, and the ruler would be like, did you make sure that these goals are the same throughout, blah 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 blah. So so there'll be, I don't know how you're going to solve that one, but that's sort of an issue. Also, whenever Hal speaks, I intend to run the goalie again, just to like update, but I guess it doesn't really matter. No, actually, so I won't run it after. Like I won't run it between these two,
No,
right?
because Hal's dealing with a goal, and
Right, but how
in order to
how
change a goal, sorry,
you go?
what I was saying is, in order to change a goal, I think it feels like one of the rules is you can only change a goal after Dave inputs. So there's no point putting it
Why?
between these because uh, the goals are really set by what Dave's intent is.
Right,
If there's
but
no
the
new
the issue
information
is
from
that Hal always provides more information than Dave gives, and so Hal
yeah,
might actually provide some hints that helped the goalie to, um, because Hal
yeah,
Hal might have done a bunch of function calls and got a way more information out of artifact than the goalie had, and so the goalie might um want to update it.
possibly, but
Possibly, yeah. I got
maybe that's hints. Maybe that's hints as opposed to goals because
mm,
what you
I,
want
I
is
agree with
to
you though. It looks silly
yeah,
to redo a goal here, like it's excessive. Um, yeah, we'll just wait
yeah,
till Dave says something. I mean, we had our
yeah,
shot, we had our chance. If we missed
right,
it,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, because otherwise I think it'd probably be quite irritating
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
and too
cool.
eager.
So update is when anytime that the goalie runs, it may wish to modify how any prior goal is defined as more information came to light. And it should indicate the progress of the goal. Like it should have an idea when a goal is done, uh, or when a goal is.
Is a goal ever done?
Yes, it is. Well, I mean, that's part of the assessor's rule, right? Like, how good was our response to Dave? Is Dave happy? Is Dave sad? Did we win?
Yeah, but the interesting thing that is, it's not goalie's job to do that. Goalie's job is there to anticipate intent.
True. How can we have some sort of a progress notion so that I can sort of, like, if I think a goal is done,
Well, it's a
then
remove
the
goal,
goal the
and,
goal.
yeah, it would be an assessor who goes, yeah, Dave's happy with that goal now. Let's remove it from the list,
Yeah.
and you
All
can
right.
disregard
Well,
it.
yeah, we can punt that out. Sure.
Maybe.
Um. Okay. So progress. Then we won't worry about progress. Um. Progress was also supposed to indicate things like uh, is it a new goal? I guess that doesn't matter either. Okay. All right. So update. So I'll ditch the progress. Do that right now. Ditch the progress, and so it'll just be update. You can change the titles to anything you want. You can change the summary, and that's all you get. Yep,
And yeah, I think there should be something like a done function.
goal done.
That's yeah, it's like we're no longer. I use an analogy. Dave's trying to book a hotel. Hotel is booked. Done. Let's not have that in the stack of sessions that we consider now.
All right, can I use the update function as that, or would that be something
Um,
different? Like I would go
uh, that's
function.
up to you. That's up to you. It's whatever's nicer
I
in
will
code land.
call that close based on the ID.
Can you give me a second? There's a
Sure.
knock at the door here. Hey, just the dogs.
Okay, so I'll give you the function. So update is when you've learned more about any given goal and you want to modify it to be more clear.
Yeah.
Um, Now keep in
Okay.
mind that the oddity that will happen is if you could be multiple responses down the thread, and then one of these ones up here will change based on that update.
Say that again.
I
So
could be down
backing
here. I
upstream,
I could
yeah,
have just said, well, what can you actually do then? When the
yeah,
goalie ran here, it might have
yeah,
realized that looking back, this should have been CRM list all customers, for example,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
would
But
make,
that's at the bottom of the stream, right?
well, that would, you'd see it change as the user. It would flicker, like it would flick to be changed up here because now that's,
Are you talking about? So we're still dealing with a stream here, but
mm,
we've got the state board. That's an update to the state board, isn't it?
no, it's this stream because if if I do not allow you to update or modify the goals, then we're
Hmm.
stuck with whatever you chose first, which is not your best option. If I don't update the history with the new modified form of goal, then how else will you see it? And you'll be looking at stale information. So it's a
Oh,
little
this is an interesting one. It's not incompatible the way I've been thinking about it, but it's not exactly what you're saying there. What I'm thinking about is the goalie is actually constantly updating the goals based on Dave's next prompt.
right.
Um, and so previous goals were previous goals, but it's refining and asking how to ask Dave for a bit more information. So like, where do you want your hotel booked, for example?
Mm.
And it's the latest goal on the stack, but you never go back because the stack is just the stack. So if
Well,
Dave, for example,
the
prompts you about,
changing it here doesn't really make any difference to what you're gonna do next.
uh-huh,
It's just that if you did browse back, you would notice that it was different.
yeah, I'm not too sure about that one because
Because
uh,
otherwise, if I don't change it, now I'm showing you
yeah,
stale information that I know has changed.
yeah, which is what I'm saying about the state board. Let me think about that one.
I
The reason
don't
is
think that
there's
goaling belongs in the state board um because it really is, it tightly wraps the text. The goaling wraps the segment of the timeline that you're on,
uh-huh,
and so it belongs in the chat stream because it is the box or the boundary of a chat segment, and so
yeah, okay.
that's not state board
Well,
material in my opinion.
I mean, that's valid. I've got a slightly different view in that the state board may be able to, let's say, there's a top chunk of the state board
Yeah,
which shows the goal, and
right,
when you scroll up, that rolls back to previous goals, but you know that is maybe stale because you're scrolling back up and there's more
right.
information.
So
When you scroll
so
back
you're
down,
saying you would prefer to see the stale version of the goal here? Just leave it
yeah,
alone? Just leave it what it
yeah,
was at the time?
because stale's not necessarily bad.
Well, it
Yeah,
is
we've got
because if I'm sitting down here and I go, "Hey, list all my goals," this one isn't going to be on that list because it's modified. It's spelled different or says something
no,
different.
no, that's cool, and we can decide which of the top of the stack means latest goals. But what I'm trying to figure out is Dave can go down rabbit holes.
Mm.
Um, he can start saying, right, I need to book a hotel, and then
Oh,
go
right.
and say,
Yeah,
well,
look, let me
possibility
just
of
show you
some
one more
going back.
function just to make sure this is the last function, and then we can get back to this conversation. Is the
Yeah.
prioritize function where
Uh-huh.
the goalie can, as new information becomes apparent, the goalie can reorder what the most important goals are from,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
That works.
and
That works.
and
Yeah.
I actually think that switch can be replaced by prioritize, but I don't want to do that because it might be too difficult to prompt the goalie into using that nuance effectively.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it really is like,
That's
but I mean, like
we'll find out. We'll find
asking
out.
it the priority, like asking it to prioritize the goals, is the same as saying what's the most important goal.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm very comfortable with prioritize. It's really good at prioritizing
Yeah.
because it's got the idea
And
of, you know,
I
back in
thought
the
what I
session.
would do here is I would allow prioritize to go on ad infinitum. So you can rearrange the first three or the first n or just the first one,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I
right?
think we're talking very similar things.
And I'll get rid of switch.
Yeah, yeah. The thing I was saying is, uh, I think possibly it would be helpful at the top of the state board to have the, let's say, the P1, P2, P3, which is updated each time. And then
Yeah,
when
but
you scroll
that's
back,
just simply if you want to talk about your goals, that would show up. That I think is getting into the realm of user interface design for the state
it
board.
is. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, which we're not ready for yet.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll just for now because it's easier for me. I will, if the goals modify from under you, I will modify them in the history, and then we will find a fix for that later. But that is the
yeah,
easiest thing for me to do is to update them all so that you only ever see what it's currently named. The ID will
yeah,
stay the same, but the contents of it will be different.
yeah. Okay, okay, cool.
Alrighty, and then
Okay,
that's
really interested to see how people interact with this thing
I know.
because it's
So this
completely
is what
different.
this is how I've prioritized my work because I think that that's that's the best use of out the best way that we can work as a team is basically I
Mm.
make this UI tester and storybook so that then you can start um you can start
Right, right,
generating
right, right in the goalie. That seems to be the obvious
yeah
next thing.
um
So, sorry, go on.
goaling has only even it was pretty high when we last spoke on my list of things. Goaling has only gone up higher, and I've also got this idea which I just want to quickly spit out because I know that we often, life gets in the way of things. So
Yeah.
let me show you this on a whiteboard. Once I annoyingly set it up once again. Oh,
I don't mind actually
plastic
because
on
once it's set up, it's
plastic
pretty
on
accurate.
plastic. There we go.
Oh well, you know this captain's
Yes,
table thing with the leather
yes, I
is actually
know all
brilliant.
about it
You
actually.
should get one. You should get one,
Yeah,
or at least a piece of leather. Get a piece of leather. It's just nice.
thanks for
Stick
the.
down a piece of leather on your desk. Okay, that's only draw, but you know what I mean.
Alrighty, so a vector space DHT. The more I think about that, the more plausible it becomes, and the more
Hold on a
useful it
second.
becomes.
I'm not. I'm seeing the old whiteboard.
Yeah, I
Looks like
know
there's a new
that
one.
I'm about to draw in the left-hand corner.
All right, cool.
Um, Vector DHT, very, very durable, very useful. I'd be surprised if there aren't people working on it already. I might make a ticket for the libp2p guys because they make the DHT implementation that we use right now and be
Uh-huh.
like, hey, you guys should do this thing. And they might be like, oh, that's cool. Um, but secondly, what I realized is that in vector space, so let's just assume that my pen fucking works.
Get a piece of leather.
Not helping Maxwell. Vector space is basically in two dimensions. You're going to end up at some point, right? And we're talking about using goal space as the means of how the social network organizes around
Right, it's
that.
clustering.
Yeah,
Can I just before we go any further, this is for my benefit. I'm well versed in graphs.
mm,
Less versed in vectors. Is there any material difference if I'm thinking about this as a
no,
graph?
not really.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Well, sorry. This is genuine multi-dimensional space. A graph is
Yeah.
about the links between things.
Yeah.
Vector space is about simply what's around something.
Well, that's isn't that the same as graph space? I need to read up about vector space, but graph space is multi-dimensional with number of links and perhaps weighted links in order to get clusters,
Right,
in order to shorten results.
right. But
Sounds very
do they
similar.
do graphs deal in nearness?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Nearness based on number of links between nodes and weights between them.
Right. That's not this then. Vector space is
Okay.
nearness in actual space
Well, so same thing, just without weights.
without links, which is a big difference.
Okay.
They work without links.
If there's in a graph, if there's no links between them, then they're disregarded in clustering.
Right.
So you got a node here, link, 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 link.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. In
one, two,
vector
three,
space,
four.
vectors don't need links. Vectors only need the distance.
Oh, so how's the distance? What does distance mean in that situation?
Um, well, here's a really bad example, but
Okay.
let's assume that y meant yes and x meant no, and I had
Uh-huh.
a bunch of characters that when I transformed them into this trivial vector space ended
Yeah.
me up um, ended me up here, and then I encoded another piece of text and it ended me up here, and then
Yeah.
I encoded a third piece of text that ended me up here, and I go, which give me the closest thing to this string that you know about, and it calculates the distance in vector space, and because we're only doing 2 dimensions here, that's just simply the Pythagorean distance,
Right.
and so that says that this one is far away from that piece of
So
string.
disregard or
Yeah,
give it lower
lower
emphasis.
weighting because of its
Yeah.
distance, but these two strings need not have had any relationship with each other whatsoever. It was
Okay,
just
that's substantially different.
yeah,
Okay.
massively different, hey?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I need to learn more about vector space.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so
All right. I'll get that.
when you take a piece of text and you generate an embedding in OpenAI, you're taking a chunk of that text and you're breaking it up into a 1536 dimension vector.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever you do a query, you're trying to find in that multi-dimensional space, you're trying to find what's close to you, because you know that in terms of how OpenAI processes text, you're gonna get relevancy out of the ones that are closest in their distance that was calculated between them.
All right. So it's like a graph on the fly because they are giving. There's nodes here,
Mm.
pieces
Yeah,
of text, and there is the idea of being local or far away,
yeah,
which is another way of saying, number of links
yeah,
between nodes
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
similar, but it's not the same. Okay, all
yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah. Okay,
all right. I'll get up to speed about that one. Thanks for that.
no
No,
worries. So what I realized is that, okay, first of all, a vector DHT extremely useful,
mm-hmm.
but number two is that when you have a goal, and particularly when you have the, like what I showed you with those the breadcrumb style of goaling, where you're like CRM slash
Yeah,
list all
yeah,
customers,
yeah.
what that looks
Which
like in
is
vector, yeah, sorry,
sorry, no.
what
Go
that
ahead.
looks like in vector space is like CRM takes you to one point in vector space,
Yeah.
and then all customers takes you to another point. The angle of approach into this cluster
Mm-hmm.
is important, because if you went eBay shopping cart, bang, I'm really sorry about the pen thing, and then if you went eBay shopping cart and then all customers, it means something different to go um,
Well,
eBay
isn't that a
shopping.
goal? Isn't that a goal?
Yeah, but list all customers is a goal, but it's breadcrumbed to be CRM slash list all customers, whereas this other one would be eBay shopping list all customers. It's this angle, the angle of approach, that makes it different too. It's not just where you are in vector space, it's where you came from.
Isn't that so? You remember 2 calls ago we were talking uh, when we're talking about goal, and I kept on talking about intent,
Mm.
and I think goals are different from intent, but intent sounds like that vector in. So the direction you come in, because you can have a CRM, add all customers and so on, but the direction you're coming in, as you say, is your overall intent, what you're trying to do, and that seems different from a kind of overarching goal, because the goal is what you want to do next. Intent is why the fuck are you here?
I
What are you
don't
trying
I
to
don't
do?
see the difference in those things. In fact, I think that you can model them all as goals, and you can start to use them as a way of like, so let's say you're working for the trucking company, and
Uh,
then you want to do something that ends up with the goal of shoe shopping as the top level goal,
mm-hmm,
and then
mm-hmm,
the goal is like, well, that's not, tell me how that relates to this top level goal, and then here's your sub goals that have been approved by the company, so to speak. So it's sort of like you could even configure your life to say what you think your primary goals are, and then
uh-huh,
the goalie would constantly be trying to fit what you're trying to do in. And then when you're outside of anything that has a link back to your top level goals, it's like, hey Dave, this thing you wanted,
uh,
it doesn't fit. Are you sure you want to be doing it, or do you want to change your top level goals? Like,
uh-huh.
what's the situation here?
Okay, I will not spend any time on this because I've got a half-arsed idea here. But remember, I used to talk about grand strategic, and tactical.
Yeah.
There seems to be a hierarchy of goals, but we don't need to worry about that now because we're not even at goals level. But let me think about that.
All right.
I'll come back if we've got something useful.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So then the last item on the, oh, that's basically it. So tomorrow, what I hope to get through is this. I'll implement these functions. You sound pretty much okay with the user interface for goaling, so
Yeah, yeah.
that sort of
Um,
sounds good enough to you, right?
right, right. The thing is, what I was going to do today, quite quickly, I was just going to review our last call and get that down on paper that we can refer back to.
Yeah,
Uh, that's a half-hour job.
yeah,
Then what I'd love is to, if you can, if you've got time to take me through. So previously, when we had the command line, we need the files to change and so on in order to actually create, in this case, a goalie. I don't have a clear idea about where I'm going in order to put in descriptions, prompts, system prompts, canonical, etc. Um, just the tooling around it.
oh yeah, okay.
It'd be
So
great
that's
if we could get it set up here.
yeah, yeah. All you're doing is, so I'll provide all the function calls. Um, so that'll be calling those functions that I just listed out for you
Yep,
there. So I'll rig all that up. But
yep,
then what'll happen is that you'll get the goalie, you'll get an assistant named / goalie, and
uh-huh.
you'll need to figure out what when you
Yep, yep.
change these
Happy,
prompts,
happy with that. Yeah.
every time you
Nope.
rerun the goalie over here, you will get a different response because it will use the prompt that it used here.
Right. Right. Got it.
Right? You'll
Okay.
also be able to see OpenAI's version of what the conversation was over here. So you'll be able to you can poke at it from either in the playground or in the tooling that I give you. But either way, it's like, what do you put in the instructions is really the hard piece of work, because these tools will
Yeah.
be replaced with the ones I just showed you, and then yeah, it's just prompting and figuring out what the interaction between goalie and Hal feels like to use, I think.
Yeah, cool. So this is no longer Dave and Hal. This is Goalie and Hal.
Goalie and
Um,
Hal, yeah. Well, Dave, goalie, and
and
Hal, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I don't want to shit all over your stuff you've done, so maybe fork that.
What do you mean?
Um,
Well, it's just going to show
uh,
up as this is the place that I made for you to do that.
all right, okay, so I can shit all over this and change the system prompt
Yeah,
and so on.
just fine.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Okay, so I'm looking at the system prompt today for Goalie,
Yeah,
and
I don't have that
uh,
set up yet, so none of that works at the moment.
all right,
This is
yeah,
just forward slash. This is just but I need to make you one that says forward slash goalie after I've made those functions.
yeah. Well, what I'll do then is I'll just go into a raw HAL
Right.
or a raw Goalie
Yeah, yeah.
and try to get it to do something similar
Mm,
based on those functions.
mm.
I can just tell it what those functions are as output on text,
Yeah, right.
um, and we'll see how far we get.
Okay.
All right, okay, I'm happy with that. In fact, I'm fucking pumped with that.
And then
Yeah, it's
I think that's all that we I think that's all we do really.
yeah. Okay, cool. All right, right. Is there anything else you want to go through?
No, man,
Because
that's it.
I think I'll go and talk with Jude now. I think we're probably good for my evening, your morning.
Okay.
I just want to check her out with that one. So we move it to GMT Monday night and Tuesday night, as opposed to Tuesday night, Wednesday night.
Okay.
So you don't have to
All
fly
right.
around.
That could work out well then. So cuz I got a I'm on daycare duties for the start of that slice.
Yeah,
Um, but then what I can be doing is just helping you get set up with this playground and get that workflow going well, so that you can really
yeah,
start experimenting. And then look, we'll get the goalie up, and then take it from
yeah,
there, because I don't know what comes next, but it sort of starts to feel like a lot of what we're talking about. The goalie is the first secondary inode to come into
yeah,
the play, and now
yeah.
and then, not that I'm sure, but the next one I think is the ruler. I think. Um,
I think we'll find out, but for sure, we're in sync on the importance of the goalie.
Goal is everything, and goal space is the social network.
Yeah, and but also what it allows is confidence for like enterprise and that sort of thing that you're not going off on one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so you're right. So after the goalie, then will be the ruler and this ability to do natural language testing, so that we can test a very broad range of capabilities to make sure that the goal of adding all the customers in all the ways that a generative AI can think of to come at it are satisfied each time.
Yeah. If we can park that conversation because my gut thinks that actually the next AI node to go through is Guardian. Just with the CRM in mind, because we need that
Right.
Guardian. The ruler is
Yeah, right.
possibly for
Rulers for
rules.
preferences, and Guardian is a clamp,
Is for
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Is your guardrails.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. All right. Oh, well, we'll get this one. We'll get the goalie up and learn from
yeah,
there, and then see what comes next.
nice. All right.
Sweet.
Okay. I'll ping you. I'll go and talk to Jude now if she's up.
Alrighty.
And then I'll alter the cal.
Thank you.
And we'll